Yes, Mr. Nikhil, please proceed.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Naik, and hello, everyone. So I think Dr. Naik has already introduced me, and he has spoken about what I do and my passion. So what you see right now on the screen is actually the image of the bamboo plantation, the commercial Tulda plantation in Karada. So this was planted in the year 2013, and currently it's in its ninth year right now. And we've started harvesting the bamboo after the fifth year. So to begin with, I would like to tell you what inspired me to cultivate bamboo. So I think in 2012, the Forest College in Ponampet had organized a seminar on bamboo cultivation, and then they had distributed some saplings of Dendroclaramus asper under Dr. Kushalappa's guidance. So we received a few of those saplings as well, and at that point, I was at a point. I was at a place in my career where I wanted to quit law. I was not passionate about law. I come from a family of advocates. Parallelly, I was managing our agricultural properties, which are ancestral, and I was trying to figure out where my true passion lay. So after that, I went and experimented. I did a course in interior design. I wouldn't call it experimentation. I did a course to understand what my strengths and weaknesses were. And following that, I quit law and started freelancing and as a designer. And parallelly, I started managing our coffee and pepper plantation. During this time, like, I had to do a lot of soul searching. So that's where the sacred geometry came into the picture. Sacred geometry is understanding the process of creation as to how everything in existence is created. And you basically understand that we are also nature and not separate from it. So this is of use to musicians, artists, designers, whoever are in the creative field. So in the process, what I realized was, how was I going to contribute back to nature? So as humans, we do a lot of consumption. I think every human being coming onto this planet means an X amount of resources being used. So I was trying to figure out, how are we going to give back? And parallelly, this seminar in Forest College happened, and that put things together. And I decided, okay, let me start growing bamboo. So after Dendroclaramus asper, I happened to visit Wayanad, where Uravu has its own bamboo nursery. I was fortunate to meet Dr. Abdullah, who is like my bamboo mentor. He was in charge of the nursery then. So he told me about the different characteristics and the uses of bamboo and the potential it had. And I sourced around 25 different species and planted them in my backyard. We have some land in Virajpet around in and around our house. So we started growing that. And after 2 or 3 years, I decided to go for a commercial cultivation. We have some paddy fields in our property in Karada, the same place where we run the farm stay. So we converted around 1.5 acres of paddy fields into bamboo. And we source the plant material from Urovu, from Wayanad, to go ahead with this species. So to decide to select the species, the parameter was again another seminar which was conducted in Forest College, where some representatives of Cycle brand agarbattis had come, and they mentioned that around 300 crores worth bamboo is imported from China and Vietnam. And Bambusa tulda is one of the species that they use for agarbatti production, which is useful for the machinery. So they said this particular species has a huge potential, and that was one of the reasons I decided to plant that particular species. So further, I would like to share my experience with regard to the cultivation. So this, like I said, the plantation was started in 2013. So we've grown, we planted around 500 clumps in 1.5 acres. And the initial cost that we incurred was around rupees 1 lakh per acre. So this cost includes the trenching because it's in paddy fields, there's stagnation of water. Then the plant material and the labor for spacing and planting. Then fencing, because to protect the plants from cows or boars, wild boars. So fence was essential, which is probably the more expensive part of the plantation. Then irrigation for the first 2 to 3 years, we did irrigate those plants during summer. And manuring was done with cow dung and other NPK fertilizers. So one more initial cost was weeding. The initial 2 to 3 years until the canopy is created, weeding has to be done. So in my observation, after 3 years, there are no recurring costs involved as such, especially weeding or irrigation is not required. Also, I have not applied any manure after that. The bamboo leaves itself are providing fodder for the clumps. So which may not be a very technical way of growth, but Dr. Abdullah, who believes in more of permaculture, said, you know, bamboo plant can be sustainable. I mean, it can feed itself. It doesn't need external applications as such. However, later on, I was advised by an official that I could use fly ash, which supposedly is a good nutrient for bamboo growth, if you're not interested in chemical fertilizers, that is. So right now the plants are in its 9th year, and we started harvesting from the 5th year onwards. And we've harvested probably more than 1,500 to 2,000 culms in the past 2.5 years. And we've sold them at around 100 rupees to 150 rupees. We've sold it up to 150, depending on the quantity. And our major buyers have been Medars, the community who are into bamboo weaving and craft work, and people who've used it for bioconstruction. So George, an engineer from Uravu, he has procured some material for constructing a couple of structures, and Uravu also has sourced some material for a project. And Forest College recently built a value addition center. So some tulda was sourced from our plantation for that as well. So I would like to further talk about the treatment tank that we have built. So the idea of the treatment tank was to provide a end product which one could use. And after we built the treatment tank, we started using boric acid and borax for treating the bamboo. And one more potential market we found is for arecanut plantation. So a lot of people use these tulda poles as arecanut plucking poles.
So, Mr. Nikhil, I have the slides here. Would like to talk through. I'll just go slide by slide, and we can talk your experience.
Sure.
Yes. Let's start with this one.
This was the cottage that we built in 2015. The construction started in 15, got over in 16. This was designed by me. Like I said, I've studied sacred geometry and lighting design. So based on those principles, the structure was built. And the team from Uravu, the bioconstruction team from Uravu under Mr. George, executed my vision. So we have around 3 cottages in our farm stay, and this is the show stealer. So whoever comes here totally falls in love and is in awe with this structure. And we've used around 5 different species here. including Brindisi, Gigantius, Bambusa bamboos, Tulda, and Stocksai.
Please let me know when you want to move to the next slide.
Yeah, can we go to the next slide, please?
Yes.
So this is another view of the same structure. So I would like to share my experience with regard to bamboo structures. So as you can see, we initially used a natural thatch. So this whole structure was totally sustainable and eco-friendly. When I say eco-friendly, we didn't, chop any trees as such. We only used dead trees or trees that were accidentally burned during a fire or recycled wood. So even the pillars are all natural wood from dead trees like acacia and eucalyptus. But two factors what I've realized in bamboo construction: one is your roof, and the other one is your the structure on which the foundation sits. So natural thatch does not work well, especially in rainfall areas like Coorg. So I've experimented with a couple of other natural materials, but I've realized it involves a lot of maintenance. So now we've used a synthetic thatch. It's a company called Palmix from Canada. So though I was not very happy using a synthetic product, but considering the maintenance and the life of the structure, we decided that's the only alternate. And probably the base is something that one should take into consideration, where you again would want to use steel or concrete. Having said that, our pillars are based in concrete, but still there is a risk of a termite attack or weathering issues. Yeah, can we go to the next slide, please? So these are this image is of the interior of that structure. So what you see inside is the bedroom, and this view is from the balcony of that structure. So elements of sacred geometry, like I said, which is to use the different patterns, shapes, forms that you find in nature, or the forms and shape that the nature uses in creation. When it comes to, it could be from the atomic level to plants to animals to humans to the macro level, everything follows a geometric blueprint. So we've used those principles and constructed this cottage. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, this image is of the bathroom of the same structure. So I think I'll elaborate more on the plantation part than the interiors, since hello.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yes. Mr. Nikhil, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, you can, there is plantation part is coming soon after this. You can.
Okay. I'm sorry, but I'm not able to see the images. The visuals have stopped. Yeah. So,
Can you see now?
yeah, now I can see images. Yeah. So these images, this image is of the interiors again. So we have a converging roof. So the rafters here made, we used Dendroclaramus asper for the rafters of this structure. And the walls are all made of Brindisi, the flattened bamboo, and it's mud plastering from the inside. Next slide, please. This image is the Tulda plantation in the same property. So we have a seating area within that space, and this is like a huge hit with the guests. So on similar lines like Nisargadama, which was used to promote ecotourism, we have been able to utilize the bamboo cultivation for the same purpose. So this is like a favorite picnic spot or a selfie spot for most of our guests. Next slide, please. So this is from a harvest. So like I said, the Medars have been the people who've been buying a lot of bamboo from us. So they make bundles of around 7 or 8 columns, and they transport it. So I believe it's used for various purposes for their craft work, and probably they use it for some silkworm industry and animal husbandry as well. Yeah, next slide, please. So another thing with the Medars is they usually harvest culms which are 2 years old. So they don't want mature culms. So the mature culms are either bought by people who use it for bioconstruction or by people who use it for arecanut plucking. So this you can still see the leaf sheath present on the culms. Next slide, please. Again, images of the harvest. So the Medars pay around 130 rupees per culm, and they usually buy around 300 to 500 culms per harvest. And it's mostly used in areas in and around Hunsur and that region. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is the image of the treatment tank. So after we started harvesting in the 6th year, we decided to build this treatment tank. The purpose was, like I said, to provide an end product, either for bioconstruction or for arecanut plucking. And also we intend to do more structures in the future within our farm stay. So we thought having a permanent tank would be helpful to treat all the bamboo. And also I intend to use different species in the interior projects that I work on. So this tank is around 30 feet in length and 5 feet in width and 5 feet depth. And we use boric acid and borax for treating the bamboo. And we usually dip it for up to a week or 10 days. If it's a recent harvest, we leave it there for a shorter duration. If the bamboo is treated after gap, then we leave it there for a longer duration. So this is a value addition investment that we did. Yeah, can we proceed to the next slide? Yeah. Again, images of the Tulda plantation. So as you can see, the mulch. This was probably clicked in one of the dry seasons. The mulch provides source of nutrition for the plants. Like I said, after the 3rd year, we have not applied any manure as such for the entire plantation. And fly ash is something which I have not been able to procure in a huge quantity. So probably in the future, I'll consider using that. Yeah, can we proceed to the next slide? Yeah. So having said all this, there was a disappointing factor at one point. Like I said, the reason for me to choose Tulda as a species was the promise by the people in the agarbatti industry. So when they later visited the plantation, they said the girth of the bamboo is not sufficient for the machines. Supposedly, the tulda that is growing in the northeast has very different dimensions. So I'm not sure if it's the plant material or it's because of the geographical factors, the topography, which has played a role here. The maximum diameter of the tulda that we've grown is around 2.5 inches. So whereas they need a diameter of more than 3 to 4 inches. Yeah, we can proceed to the next slide.
Mr. Nikhil, now we're going to show the 360-degree view of the farm.
So this is the exterior of the bamboo cottage Arka.
This is the first slide.
Okay, so we are right now standing in the balcony of Arka. So Mr. Ranganath, I think, is going to pan around the image and show you the view of.
Can you talk us through what are the bamboo, what variety you've used for the main poles, etc.?
So I told you about the 5 different species. So the pillars are all Bambusa bamboos, and the rafters are Dendroclaramus asper. And the flattened bamboo, what you see on the wall is Brandisi. And Gigantius was used for the paneling part in the interiors. I think when we go to the next slide, I can show you where the Gigantius was used.
You can stop me. You can stop me wherever you want to add a comment, Mr. Nikhil.
Okay, fine, Mr. Rangnath. So if you can pan towards the view of the paddy fields, the railings have been, we've used cane as well. Like I said, structure was based on sacred geometry. So if you notice, the railing has the design of a DNA pattern. So cane was used to create that pattern. So the story behind Arka is I've tried to express the life cycle of a human being from conception till realization. So the bamboo bridge is shaped like a DNA. The railings are shaped like a DNA pattern. The bridge is in a shape like a wave, a sound wave, which has crests and troughs. So it is the representatives of the mother's heartbeat that we get drawn to when we're inside the womb. Then there is this element of golden ratio. So sacred geometry by itself is a vast subject. So there are a lot of symbolism which is used in the structure in different places. So I've in fact written a book on that where interested guests, if they can flip through the material and connect with the structure, who was interested in that particular aspect. So this the balcony and the entire platform is in the golden ratio. The 1:1.618 is proportion. I don't know if many of you are familiar with the golden ratio. This is
Fibonacci numbers.
That's right. So this is a number which is visible in nature in many places. And you can say mathematically it kind of expresses the infiniteness of creation or everything in existence. From the one comes the many. So there is a one source or one creator, and from that everything gets manifested. So in mathematics, the Fibonacci sequence or the golden ratio kind of depicts the the spiritual nature of the universe. So what you see in that image, I think when we go to the next slide, probably I can tell you about more symbolism and the elements of sacred geometry which are used. I think we have to proceed to the next slide. This is a similar view of the earlier slide.
ಲೀವ್ ಹೇಳಿ ಬಂತು ಲೀವ್ ಆದ ಮತ್ತೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಲೀವ್ ಹೇಳಿ ಬಂತು
ಅದು ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಲೀವ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ.
Next one. Yeah, I think it's the fourth one, if I'm not wrong.
Loading the fourth one now.
Okay. Yeah, so I think here, if you pan around, you can pan to the ceiling as well. So this is the bedroom of the structure. So this, as you can see, the walls are octagonal in shape and the roof is circular and the base is actually a square. So if you look at a plan view of the structure, there is a square base, then there's an octagonal wall and a conical roof. That's a circular roof on top. So you will probably see this in cornerstones of temples, where the base kind of depicts the manifest earth. The octagon plays the role of a mediator and the circle represents the divine or the infinite. So the octagon as a shape is a mediator between the manifest earth and the unmanifest God or spirit, whatever you want to refer to it as. So the whole idea is to connect to your inner self. So that is one of the experiences that I'm trying to create through this structure and with the underlying symbolism. So there is something called the Platonic solids. So there are only 5 forms which are present, which have the same shapes or which are formed by the same polygons. So the bed frame or the cot is shaped like a cube. So the cube represents Earth again. And if you pan up, you will see a lampshade. So that's called a dodecahedron, which has 12 faces, and that represents ether. So Plato discovered these 5 forms, so each representing the 5 elements: earth, water, wind, fire, and ether or space. So the same metaphor being tried to express the connection between man and spirit, or earth and ether. So I was coming back to bamboo. I was telling you about the different species. So if you look at the furniture here, we've used Jajantius for the paneling of the bed frame and the table that you see there. And that the art on the wall is actually from an artist called Lenin from Urovo, where he's used multiple cut pieces of bamboo to kind of create an abstract art. Yeah, I think we can proceed. You can zoom in on that particular piece. So this is like a medium to showcase how bamboo can be used in various forms, from interior paneling, for bioconstruction, for wall hanging, for crafts and interior deco products as well. I think in the next slide, you'll be able to see the bridge, the 5th slide. And that must be I think that's the 6th slide you clicked on. The 5th slide is an image of the bridge which leads to the structure. So you can see the synthetic thatch in this image. So the flooring here is all recycled wood. This portion of the roof, which originally had hay, the underneath was aracanut, not aracanut, leaf sheath. There was paddy thatch on top, which was not doing very well with the monsoon in Cook. So we had to replace it with synthetic thatch. So this looks quite natural from the exterior, but from the interior, it does not have a very organic feel to it. But considering the maintenance and the longevity of the structure, we had to go for this material.
I didn't get.
So we use some lampshades as well.
I think you have maintained the symmetry everywhere in your construction, including the bridges, I guess.
So that is one of the key elements of sacred geometry. So apart from the main people who are famous for using sacred geometry were probably the Egyptians because of the pyramids. But apart from that, the Greeks used it, the Mayans used it, the Incas used it, and obviously the Indians used it as well in their architecture. So this was knowledge which was spread across continents at a time when there was no communication between different cultures or between people. So this is, like you say, the language of nature or the universal frequency on which people connect. So
Very,
the idea
very
using
true.
sacred geometry is probably to kind of create a sense of harmony, since all those proportions are there within the human body. So when one comes to comes into a space where those structure, I mean, such forms and proportions are used, you kind of resonate with that space. Yeah, I think now we can probably proceed to the next slide. So this is this image is of the connecting bridge that leads to the bathroom. So the other thing that inspired me or still inspires me in my work is visionary art. So these are paintings of popular visionary artists from different parts of the world. So it's like a mini gallery for visionary art as well.
Can you talk a little about where you collected these kind of arts?
So, like I said, I keep traveling, or at least I used to travel often before the pandemic. So, whenever I would go abroad, I would source some of them. So, I've met a couple of these artists in person when I was in Europe and in the US. So, I've bought some art from them, and some art I've downloaded from the internet, and I got them printed on canvas here. So this wardrobe, what you see here, so that is bamboo mat which has been used for the paneling. In fact, the frame is made out of plywood, and then we've used this bamboo mat, which is a factory processed product for the paneling of the wardrobe. So that's another lampshade, what you see. I was talking about the platonic solids and the 5 elements. This form is called the octahedron, and this represents air. So we've used it in the connecting bridge, which does not have any pillars or support. It's actually held by two, the bedroom and the bathroom, which are supported by pillars. So symbolically, we've tried to use different forms, specifically for expressing the idea of the human connection with the nature. I think the next slide probably is of the bamboo plantation. So among the multiple uses of growing bamboo, I think one more thing I would like to add here is that this has created a habitat for so many bird species, and especially the starlings. So we had never seen starlings before in our property. So after the bamboo came in, the starlings have made it a permanent feature to reside there. And they create some amazing formations in the sky, especially during paddy harvest season, because there is a bounty of food, for them. So I don't know how many of you are aware, starlings use these shapes and formations called murmurations. So it's like a phenomena which kind of creates wonder and awe. So these are probably all the hidden advantages of growing bamboo, which I was not aware of. So one more thing I would like to add here is, especially in Coorg, we do have a lot of elephants. So there's a lot of human-elephant conflict. So when the plantation was in its 4th year or something, the elephants started visiting. So their numbers have increased over time, and their visits also have increased over time. So the first time they came, we thought it's going to destroy the entire plantation, but for some reason they just sampled 2 or 3 clumps, and they left it as it is. Probably it didn't suit their palate or something, but it looks like, the elephants have liking for certain bamboo species, and they don't eat all bamboo as such, because we have clumps of Brindisi and yellow vulgaris. Yellow vulgaris seems to be their favorite. They make sure they go and feast on them whenever they come, and Brindisi to a certain extent. I think their favorite must be Bambusa bamboos, which grows in the wild. So even for our, what do you say, for humans using bamboo shoot as an edible source, Bambusa bamboos has a tangy taste and is probably the most tasty of all the other species. The Southeast Asian species are comparatively a little blander.
Do you like me to move to any other slide?
Yeah, so I think we can. So this image is of the seating area within the place which I was talking about, which is popular with the tourists and the guests who come to visit the property. Yeah, I think we can proceed to the next slide. Yeah, so these images are of the meadow which is within the property. So this is a 28 acres plantation, and there is a natural cattle grazing meadow in the middle of the plantation, which is kind of the USP of the property or the soul of the property. So this is where I'm developing the hospitality project called The Other Side. I think Mr. Ranganathan, with regard to bamboo, probably there is, I think, one more slide where you can view the plantation from the outside, probably 2-3 slides after this.
Yeah.
Okay,
I guess this is the slides that you sent me.
that's, yeah.
And yes, would you like to add anything else? Please go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to say, I mean, whoever is interested in bamboo cultivation, I think it has huge potential. So you need not have any second thoughts if you do have land and you want to proceed in that direction. But you need to have the patience and the strength to wait for 5 or 6 years after harvesting, which is pretty much the case in most of the agricultural, produce. So I feel not only will you be contributing to retain the green cover, you will also be helping the process of carbon sequestration and reducing your carbon imprint and the global warming process. I don't know how much one can contribute as far as global warming is concerned, but like they say, the alilu seve part is probably is what you can take into consideration with the bamboo cultivation.
Mr. Nikhil, that was some wonderful presentation. You have done significant work on optimum utilization of bamboo, showcasing both nature, conservation, as well as tourism. A big kudos to you from all of us for all the work you have done already. And now the floor is open for any questions. If anyone has any questions for Mr. Nikhil, please raise your hand or start talking, please.
I just wanted to know from Nikhil ji, what will be
Yes,
the
sir.
total expenditure till it is harvested from first year, planting, maintenance, then you told the fourth or fifth year you can harvest the crop. So till such a time, what will be the approximate expenditure incurred? Then what will be after it is harvested? What will be the returns? So per acre or per hectare net savings, how much a farmer can get? Because he
See,
has to plan his economics. Yeah.
That's right. So it's around a lakh per acre, and this is the cost that you'll incur in 3 years. So apart from the fencing and sourcing the plant material and planting, later on the weeding and the irrigation all put together might be around 1 to 1.5 lakhs over 3 years. So after the third year, there are no recurring expenses as such, unless and until if you are doing it very progressively and you're applying fertilizers probably and irrigating also, maybe the growth might be better. I have not tried doing that. Like I said, I'm trying to do the permaculture part where I want things to be organic. So if you use chemical fertilizers and again do additional irrigation, maybe you'll be able to get more biomass or produce. So as far as returns is concerned, we are earning around 1 lakh to 1.5 lakhs per acre every year from bamboo. So whatever we had invested per acre is coming back every year. And that is without any maintenance or recurring costs. But one issue we faced is from the biggest predator walking this planet, human beings they come and steal the bamboo shoots.
Oh.
That is So they steal more than 200 shoots or 300 shoots, which is valued probably at around 30,000 rupees. And they might probably fetch, say around 1,000 rupees, because they'll be selling it in kgs. So this might be probably the alcoholics or people surrounding the property, where they come, they go sell it in the local market, or they visit homes and they sell the bamboo shoot, and they earn 200-300 rupees per packet. So per kg, that is, not per packet. Yeah. So this is one menace. More than elephants, humans have been troubling me more. So
Two-legged elephants. Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman sir. I would like to, can we go to the next question, Mr.
Just small question. Where we get the good planting material, source for the good planting material for the bamboo?
So as far as my knowledge is concerned, there are two places. One is where I source the material from. This is from Uravu nursery in Wayanad. And the other one is the Growmore Biotech by Dr. Bharti in Hosur.
Thank you,
So
sir.
these are two reliable places from where you can source the plant material.
Thank you, sir. We move on to the next question. Mr. Pradeep, please go ahead.
Thank you, team. Hi, Mr. Nikhil. Your work is very marvelous, especially on the geometry part you have worked on. We want to avail, thank you. We want to avail the book. How to avail that?
If you WhatsApp me, I can share the PDF version of the book.
Okay.
So,
do you have the print copy also?
I don't have the print copy. We've just placed it in that structure because the book is kind of relevant to that structure. So sacred geometry is open to interpretation. So this is the language of nature, right? So I have used it for a specific purpose in that structure, and I've used the elements and presented the symbolism there for the viewers or the guests who are staying there to understand the concept better. So this book I've written is more related to Arka. So if you are interested in sacred geometry, you can look up the internet. There are enough and more information that's present.
Yeah, because recently Karnataka government minister concerned announced a diploma in bamboo for Karnataka State Rural and Panchayat Development under the CGBMT, Center for Green Building Material and Technology. Maybe your book may be helpful to them, and it may give an insight for drafting some syllabus as well. Definitely, we will avail this information from Bamboo Society of India, Bangalore chapter.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. And another question, if a group of farmers want to visit and avail some information at site, whether they are allowed?
Yeah, they can definitely come over. They are welcome.
Okay, thank you. ರೈತರು ನೇರವಾಗಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಹಿತಿಯನ್ನು ಹಂಚಿಕೊಂಡಿರೋರಿಗೆ ವಿಸಿಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತಮ್ಮ ತರಬೇತಿ ಅಥವಾ ಬೆಳೆಗಳ ಕುರಿತು ಮಾಹಿತಿ ಪಡೆಯಬಹುದು ಅಂತ ನಿಖಿಲ್ ಅವರು ಮಾಹಿತಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಸರ್.
Thank you, Mr. Pradeep. Next, Anuradha Kashid, please go ahead and ask your question.
हेलो.
Yeah.
सर, आपका काम बहुत ही एक्सेलेंट है. स्ट्रक्चर्स भी बहुत ही सुंदर है. इससे रिलेटेड एक क्वेश्चन पूछना था कि आप जो स्ट्रक्चर्स आपने क्रिएट किए हैं और कल्टीवेशन भी किया है, तो हॉस्पिटैलिटी को मैनेज करते समय यहाँ पर मस्कीटो और इंसेक्ट्स के भी प्रॉब्लम आते होंगे, तो उसको आप कैसे मैनेज करते हो?
देखिए, मस्कीटोज और इंसेक्ट्स, अभी ये हमारा एक बैम्बू स्ट्रक्चर है. इसके अलावा और 2 स्ट्रक्चर है, एक ब्रिक से बना हुआ. तो मस्कीटो इंसेक्ट सभी जगह पे है. तो बैम्बू स्ट्रक्चर में स्पेसिफिक करके मैं ये नेचुरल थैच हमने जब इस्तेमाल किया था, तो बारिश के समय उसमें थोड़ा फंगस का ग्रोथ और दूसरा वर्म्स का भी प्रॉब्लम्स हुआ था. इसीलिए हमने वो थैच, वो रूफ को बदल दिया. लेकिन मस्कीटोज के लिए हमने शेड नेट यूज किया है और रात को हम गेस्ट को बोलते हैं खिड़की दरवाजा सभी बंद रखिए, जो टाइम में मस्किटोज अंदर आता है, और उसके बाद 8 बजे के बाद जब पूरा रात हो जाता है तब मस्किटोज अंदर नहीं आते। उसके बाद वो ट्वाइलाइट टाइम में प्रॉब्लम होता है।
सर वन मोर क्वेश्चन, आपका रेंटल टैरिफ क्या लगाते हैं स्ट्रक्चर्स के लिए?
ये बैम्बू कॉटेज के लिए हमारा ये लग्जरी ऑप्शन है, इधर के लिए हम 9000 चार्ज करते हैं।
पैकेज।
ओके सर, थैंक यू।
या थैंक यू।
Sir, another question, what is the treatment you are giving to the bamboo for to avoid the termites and any insect problems?
So initially it's treated with we treated it with boric acid and borax, like in the tank that we had within the property, and later on we use cashew nut oil as a coat of polish. So this we reapply every 1 or 2 years.
सर अगेन वन मोर क्वेश्चन, कैन आई आस्क यू?
Yes, please.
सर ये स्ट्रक्चर्स की ड्यूरेबिलिटी कितनी है, सस्टेनेबिलिटी कितनी साल की है? अगर आपने
if-
इसको ट्रीट बीबी में किया है तो?
I think around 30 years, 30 to 35 years, they should last, provided you do regular maintenance work. So if your roof and foundation are non-organic materials, I think they will last longer, because as far as your walls, rafters, and elements are concerned, I don't think contact with the natural, again the rains and the sun, those that material has to be chosen carefully. So it has to be a combination of a little bit of synthetic non-artificial, I mean artificial material with the natural materials. That's my belief.
Another question is this, sir,
Yes,
what
sir.
is
Thank you.
the, okay.
Mr. Manohar, please go ahead. The last question.
What is the maturity of the bamboo can it should have for this type of the structures? What is the, how much, what is the age? It means what is the maturity standards for this one?
So if you need to use it for construction, I think a minimum of 3 years.
Minimum 3 years, okay.
See, once the clump has matured, the clump takes 5 years to mature. After 5 years, any new column which comes up should be at least 3 years old when you harvest it.
Thank you, very nice presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Nikhil. I think one last question. If anyone wants to ask questions, please raise your hand. But for this particular session, we are running out of time. Last question, Mr. Hegde, please.
Yeah, sir. One question I had, like, what are the common diseases for bamboo plants, sir?
So we have not experienced any diseases as such. Only thing is, I think the flowering is the main challenge. So if your plant material has been sourced at the right time, then you don't run the danger of the flowering happening. And if flowering happens, then the life cycle comes to an end and it has to restart from the beginning. So I'm not aware. There may be some diseases which do affect bamboo, but I have not experienced any of them so far. It is quite resilient plant or grass.
Or is it does it hold good for all the varieties of bamboo, or only for like what you're growing?
Like I said, I have planted around 25 different species. Those are all like 1 or 2 clumps each. None of them have been affected by any disease as such. So whereas commercially I've just cultivated 1 species. So from my experience, I can only tell you about what I have done.
Yeah. Thanks, sir. Thanks. It's very informative.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.